Yeah, because we're talking about emotions alienated children might experience and express, and one of them you touched on this was apathy, but before that you said anger, and maybe before anger or mixed up with anger would be hatred, like feeling hatred towards their mother or their father. Like, do you think that, like, because if one parent hates the spouse, then that child would say, okay, well, dad hates mom, so I have to hate her too, or vice versa, the other way, where a child would feel hatred towards their own parent. Um,
Does the child hate their parent? It's one of those yes and no kind of answers, unfortunately. Yes, in the sense where this is part of the identity that's being put into them. So when they're told what's allowed, what's not allowed, hating the other parent, hating the erased parent is part of that identity. It's a very ugly process,
the
and it.
energy of hatred is being
Mhm.
instilled in them, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when they're being hateful, they're they're not thinking about the hate. They're not thinking about how the other parent is feeling. They're only thinking about the fear that's driving the hate. Maybe one of the things that you might hear actually, I can't remember who said it. It was the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. The opposite of love is indifference. And the reason for that is hate invokes a sense of disappointment. Hate means that I wanted you to be something, but you're not, and I'm mad that you're not. And so so if you break down that emotion that they're feeling, and they're saying, I wanted you, they're probably thinking in their head, I wanted you to be the perfect mother, the perfect father in a relationship that would have stayed together, but you didn't. And now I'm angry at you for it. And they're pushing all that anger and frustration onto you. And and that's being done in the form of attacks on your character, attacks on your behaviors and any hobbies you might have. It might be incorporated into insults and things that are just completely not true and unreasonable demands that no child would ever make.
Social
The
media attacks.
Absolutely, that too. And all of that is done to project that anger, that frustration of I wanted a perfect family, but and quote unquote they believe, but the erased parent is the reason for that failed uh, relationship. Again, this is what's inculcated into them. It's not true. So that's one of the core distinctions I want to make. Now, after this whole hateful process, maybe days later, there is possibly a sense of guilt and shame. It does depend on how advanced that alienation process is, because some people, myself included, might deal with that guilt and shame with apathy. You just put it into a bottle, put those emotions on the shelf, and let it ferment. So instead of dealing with it, they will put that guilt and shame onto the shelf. And what happens is the next interaction with the erased parent, that's when they they have this track history of all these hateful things they've said. And you could think of it kind of like the sunk cost fallacy, is like you can't back out because you've given so much energy already into this one endeavor. So if they back out, then they feel more misaligned with themselves because their identity again is built on hatred. It's built on being spiteful and venomous. So
So
in
there's
order to keep in line, yeah,
egos coming up, right? Their ego
yes,
saying, yeah, you can't back out now because of all the
hmm,
shit that's gone down.
absolutely. And so in order to keep in line with the original behaviors that have been prescribed to them, they have to follow this pattern of behavior. Otherwise, they feel caught and conflicted because they start thinking, is this the truth? Am I the bad person for being hateful? Am I the bad person for saying all these mean things? Am I the bad person for pushing you away? And so there's all that guilt that gets wrapped up into the fear, which already was very strong to begin with. And that intensifies the anger that they shoot out at you.
Yeah, that's a really a toxic storm.